Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Hello, book lovers. Welcome to Must Love Books. Welcome back to Must Love Books podcast. Today I am here with Tarah DeWitt, the author of Rootbound, The Co-op, Funny Feelings, and recently, Savor It. Tarah indulged herself in writing bits and pieces of her own after she devoured every rom-com available in 2020. Eventually, those ramblings from the Notes app turned into her debut novel. Tarah loves stories centered around perfectly imperfect characters, specifically the ones who may have just enough trauma to keep them funny without being forcefully cavalier. She believes laughter is an essential part of romance, friendship, parenting, and life, and takes care to balance her stories with equal parts humor and heart. Welcome, Tarah DeWitt. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing great. I am so happy to have you on to talk about your recent release of Savor It.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk about them.
So why don't you tell us, just a little bit about this novel for those who haven't gotten around to reading it yet?
Sure. It is a small town romance based in a fictional town called Spoons, Oregon. And the tagline for that is not to be confused with Forks, Washington. It's about a burnt out chef who recently got fired from his job at a Michelin-starred restaurant, who is tasked by his former employer to consult on the opening of a restaurant out on the Oregon coast in this small town. He has recently also become the guardian of his niece because his sister passed away. And he is renting a house for the summer next to our quintessential small town gal, Sage, who is a teacher during the school year and obviously having the summer off, she has a lot of hobbies. She has a hobby farm. So, and this summer in specifically wants to participate in her town's festival. So they team up for the summer and romance and hijinks ensue. I really liked the idea of writing a small town, but I knew I would have to do it in kind of a different way, in a way that would sort of focus on not just the idyllic aspects of it, but some of the kind of tougher things that come with a small town. So I really loved the idea of setting it in this kind of like craggy, perpetually foggy sort of place. And I really wanted to write a character that was hopeful and bright. And so Sage started forming up in my mind. But also, I think I was sort of going through something similar to Fisher in that I had written 3 books within the span of a year. I was really excited for all these things that had come from that, and the ability to write full time. But like with that came just a huge amount of pressure, and I was definitely burning myself out a little bit. And so I could relate to that. And I think that's just sort of, I was reaching for somebody like Sage, and I was more channeling Fisher, I think. Yeah.
I think that's a really great way to kind of dive into the characters. Especially, we often, when we're talking with writers, they talk about how much they connected with their main character. So I love how you were really channeling your male lead, Fisher, while writing this. And I think it's a really great way to kind of tackle that type of writing is by connecting with who isn't your main character and how that character really sees your main character. I love that.
Yeah. It was definitely, I think with writing dual POV, I really, it's important to me that they both have equal flaws. I don't love it when it feels like one character has more flaws than the other. And so like, even with Sage, she sort of realized that she'd maybe been too much of a people pleaser, and her coming to own her own, personality, her own desires, her own quirks, and just be like, I don't care if you think I'm a manic pixie dream girl. I am what I am, and this is why I'm this way. Like, life's too short. I live it like this. I really just loved being able to tap into both of them, because then I think they both feel really honest.
And it makes the characters a lot more authentic and real too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just makes it easier for other people to relate to both of them. I can relate to each of them in different ways. And I think that that's how that connection happens across the page for readers too.
Yeah, I love that. And so Spoons, Oregon, is this based on or inspired by a real town, or is it just, kind of a little pun and play on Forks from Twilight?
Oh, well, I definitely had to throw in some Twilight jokes, but I would say it's based on some of my favorite coastal Pacific Northwestern towns, but just sort of like an amalgamation of all of them. There's Bandon, Oregon. There's Coos Bay. I threw in a few little nods in the book and just kind of tweak the names a little bit so that if you're from there or have been to those places, you'd be like, oh my God, I know what she's doing here. I'd recognize that, just because I think I'm from California, but the northern coast of Northern California and the southern coast of Oregon, I just think it's one of the most unique, interesting places out there. It's one of the most beautiful and dramatic coastlines, but it's not what you think of automatically when you think of like this cute coastal town. You think of beaches, and you don't think of these perpetually damp, almost exclusively foggy, sort of moody towns. But unless you start thinking of, Forks, Washington and all that. But I would say it's Astoria, Oregon too, is one of the places it's based on. It's just kind of a combination of a few of them.
I love that you really took us out of the standard small town romance where you're right. We always get, this small town with perfect weather and everything is, bright and sunny and warm and nice all the time. When really, like, who has weather like that all the time? First of all, no one has great weather all the time.
No. Unless it's another coast where it's probably also just humid as hell all the time. So, yeah.
And I think that lends an additional layer of authenticity.
Yeah.
And you know what? The idea of having a romance in the mist, I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah. I'm a sucker for it. Everybody loves that Darcy moment.
That was exactly where my head was going. Exactly what I was thinking.
Same. Big same. I'm so transparent when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I like the little tongue-in-cheek of some of the nods to small town stuff, but I really tried to draw from my experience and what it's like moving to a small town and some of the annoyances of it, and I try not to poke fun at it because I think that there's a reason we love a lot of that, because we love the community sense that comes with small towns, and we love the found family aspect. So I tried to really pay homage to those things while also getting to be a little tongue-in-cheek about some of the parts.
And there's a little bit of a fake dating trope here, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I realize that something consistent with my writing is I don't start from tropes ever. They just sort of naturally take place, but I don't create a plot based on them. So for me, it was like forced proximity was the main trope in this because they're close, they're neighbors for the summer, and it's small town. And so, especially when she's kind of curious about this apparent tension going on between him and his niece, and wants to step in and help with that. But definitely the fake dating just kind of pushed them a little bit closer and made a partnership a little more, I gave it a little more framework. So yeah, I like that. I don't always love when physical affection seems forced. So just because other people are watching, but I liked that they got to kind of partner up for a mutual sort of goal in that way. And that just sort of blossomed from there.
I think that is an excellent way to approach writing tropes, especially in the romance genre. A lot of tropes, they do sometimes kind of feel like tropes for the sake of plot, or really plot for the sake of meeting this trope and putting that in there. So I like how it happened in a more natural progression of your writing.
Yeah, I definitely always aim for that just because I like it when it doesn't, when it doesn't feel forced and when it feels like it you just recognize it. And it's like that Leo DiCaprio meme where he's like, ooh, ooh. I think I like when he points at it, I like that feeling when I see it come up in a romance.
And I think that's another way that it feels more natural as well.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, when you have fleshed out enough characters and strong enough characters, I really try to make it like a character-driven romance. And so I'm not making all these, they're driving their story.
So my next question is, are you more of a plotter, a pantser? How do you tackle your writing process?
I would definitely say it's a little bit of both. I try to at least do I do a really loose, casual outline of things. And then when I take it a step further, I try to outline per chapter. So I know what my goals are for those chapters, just to make sure I'm checking things as I go along. Usually something changes though, to where all my plans were messed up along the way. So, but yeah, so I would say it's a combination of both. The thing that I spend the most time on in the beginning is I get really detailed about my character profiles, because I think once I know them best, I know what decisions they would make and how to stay consistent, and while also being able to check in on their growth individually, on their individual character arcs and their romance journey along the way. So I would say I definitely spend the most time on that in the beginning, and on how I get them to a meet cute that is immediately makes them vulnerable and gets them in a position where things can jump off. So that's usually the thing that I get set in stone first, and the rest just kind of loosely comes together.
I love writing character profiles for any of my characters. What do you like to include in a profile for creating your own characters?
I always start from an enneagram. I think that's a really easy way to just get a baseline for personality. And then from there, I'll do like a star sign when I really get to know them. And I like to have some sort of random detail about them. Like, what would they order for breakfast, or what things, what movies would they love, and things like that. But especially when I get to know an enneagram, a lot of the other stuff starts to line up as you go.
So what kind of things are on Sage and Fisher's character profiles?
Oh gosh, I know it. Right when you said that, I just did a whole thing for this for Meyer and Farley, so they were fresh in my head from Funny Feelings. I would say that, and I finished another book, so my brain is mush. I think that Fisher was definitely an Enneagram 4, where he was, you know, an individual and felt like this drive to make sort of a name for himself. And I believe that Sage was more of an Enneagram 3. I wish I had that somewhere to reference back. Where it was either an Enneagram 3 or a 2, where she really wanted to make herself like useful to people. Like that gave her some sort of purpose for a while, but as she sort of goes along, she realizes, you know, I need to also prioritize what I want. I need my wins and my moments too. So.
And you mentioned how once you figure out your characters and get to know them, you assign a star sign to them. So what signs are Sage and Fisher?
Sage is a Pisces for sure. She's very much a Pisces. And then Fisher was a Taurus fan.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Love it.
I keep a notes app of all of them. I should have that handy. He was either a Taurus or a Virgo.
Very earthy and down to earth.
Definitely a Taurus. More like a earthy, like comfortable. He likes the earthly comforts, obviously, with food and all that. But Sage, for sure, a Pisces. My little sensitive gal.
Oh, that makes a good combination.
Absolutely. So with SAVOR, everybody that has read it so far, and people that were reading the arcs, they have almost exclusively all said, I have to know if you have a book planned for Ren and Alice. And I can confirm that I have already turned in a book for them. So there will be a book for Ren and Alice in 2025. So don't worry, I wasn't going to leave everybody hanging like that. There's a reason that I dropped a few little Easter eggs in there about them. And it's fun that we're not done with spoons yet. Thankfully, I get to revisit it a little bit more.
Are you only going to revisit for just the second book, or are you planning a series around spoons? I
am not sure if I'm allowed to say anything about other books yet, but if I know that there's at least one more story that I would like to tell. So most likely I'll get to go back a third time.
That would be great. I love that. And I love interconnecting stories like that too.
I do too. Especially when each one gets to have sort of a fresh and completely different approach. And then the ones that I do have planned are definitely all very different.
Now, with the spinoff, while you were writing Savor It, did you kind of have these ideas growing at the same time, or did this come later?
This is actually the first time I've ever, I never set out to write a series, never thought I would. I have too many things that I want to write, and I have ADHD, and I just, the idea of like boxing myself in a place, I did not think that I would want anything to do with that. But the moment I started writing Savor It is the first time I've ever had side characters jump out at me like that. And mainly it was it's in building Sage's, character and profile. I had this idea where she's like, she even took in her brother and sister-in-law's horse when they got divorced. Like she takes in whatever she can to like try to keep peace everywhere else. And then I was like, it really was just one of those weird moments where something kind of came over me and it was like, oh, there's a story for them too. And I, especially with how Sage observes what these people need in their lives, and she's observant like that. I had a lot of fun just being like, oh, okay, I got to tell their story. And I, dropped a few lines in there that people seem to go pretty feral for. So I am excited to tell their tale.
I am definitely looking forward to it myself as well.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So you have coming up a little later this year a re-release of the co-op.
Yes, I'm very, very excited about that one. So when St. Martin's picked up my backlist titles along with my 3 new books, we talked about staggering them in between my new releases. And in doing that and going through a formal edit and everything, they asked if I would, want to write some bonus material and stuff for the co-op, and just did kind of a more formal edit on it. And when I got my edit letter back and I started getting into it, it had already been over a year since I had published that book. And after going back into it after all this time, it was like, I didn't know how to quite approach some of these edits without sort of reworking a lot of these parts. And then the bonus material grew into this huge, like an entirely second story for it and everything. So it basically just got a full restructure. It's now dual timeline. So we also get to see Deacon and Loren's relationship in the past, like when they had a sort of a summer fling before. And yeah, I'm just so proud of that book now and so excited for it to get kind of a new life. We did a new cover for it, and it started when I published that book. It started as like I think it was an 80,000 word book. I try to keep my books around 90,000 words and not go above that, just because I personally love a book that's like very bingeable. So that one was 80,000 words. I probably got rid of 20 or 30,000 words, and it's now 110,000 words or something like that. So it definitely got a full rewrite. It's a new book. So, but I think that the people that already loved them and will get all the pieces of them that they still loved.
And then so much new content to expand upon.
Yes, and so much new content to love from them too.
I love that. And honestly, I am so excited. It is not often that an author gets to dive back into one of their first works and really expand on it and address some, changes that they considered later on. I love that you have this opportunity, that it has got to be so thrilling for you.
Yes, I won't lie. During it, I hated every minute of it until it finally started coming together. It's the hardest. I would rather write a new book than ever tackle that again, just because when you've taken so much time away from something, it's really hard to jump back in. And especially the people that loved those characters loved them for how they are imperfect and they are sharp with each other at first. So finding a way to honor that, so to keep the character themselves the same while also giving them just a super fresh take on their story. It was a special kind of hard, but it was, I can say unequivocally, it was just so worth it in the end. It's funny how it's a little ironic how that book has undergone renovations, especially because I started writing it shortly after I started my very first debut book. It's undergone the most sort of reinventions, and it's about a full home renovation. So it's a little bit meta.
It is a little bit meta.
Yeah.
And now
Very
with this
much so.
re-release, you have kind of tweaked some of the stories and some of the side characters. Will this, like Savor It, inspire some additional stories visiting these side characters?
I don't have any plans to, but in my mind, I have a few like side stories that took place, canonically. I would love to do like a bonus novella or something for them one day, just to show, what happened to some of these other side characters and all that. But I don't have any specific plans. But I don't know. When people read my books, I imagine them all existing together out in the world, so that you'll definitely get to see them pop up occasionally in some of my other works.
It's almost like the Tarah DeWitt literary universe.
Yeah.
We got to come up with a cool name for that. Like,
Yep.
like,
That's what I've been told before.
yeah, like
I like that.
Marvel has the
I like the little
MCU.
Easter egg.
All of the Shonda Rhimes series, her TV series have Shondaland. So we got to come up with a name.
Yep. TDLU.
Yeah.
How funny.
TDLU. I love it. I'm here for it. And I absolutely cannot wait to see what more you have coming out for us.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Okay, so normally at this point, I play a little game. A lot of my authors, the most common ones they choose is this or that, or would you rather. I do have one that none of my authors have been brave enough to give a try. So we are going to play a brand new game to the pod called Round Robin. Tara and I were each going to take turns trying to write a short story together and see what we could possibly come up with on the fly here. So I'm going to start it off very classic and simple with Once Upon a Time.
There was a boy who met a girl.
It was a stormy, rainy night that you could not believe.
And yet she was jumping rope outside.
He could not believe his eyes. She was soaking wet in the rain. He had to know more.
What are you doing? He shouted.
The girl continued to jump her rope, laughing in the rain. She was amused by his bewilderment.
Do you want to join me? She asked.
The boy looked at her incredulously, but figured, why not?
Oh, man. You took it in another direction. Oh, okay. I guess if I get pneumonia, at least I'll get out of school, he thought.
He left the comfort of his dry and warm living room and stepped out into the rain, immediately soaked.
He found that jumping rope in puddles was actually kind of fun.
Do you often play out in a thunderstorm? He asked her.
I like playing in all weather, she said.
Even in the snow?
Even more in the snow.
How does a jump rope work on the ice?
Not well.
He laughed at that, enjoying the grin on her face.
I guess if you can have fun, even in bad conditions, or not bad conditions, even in less than ideal conditions, you can have fun anytime.
Okay, I actually love that. And I just want to say the end.
Perfect.
That is so cute.
There we go. We just wrote a children's book together.
We did. All right, I'm going to go ahead and read it from the beginning. Once upon a time, there was a boy who met a girl. It was a stormy, rainy night that you could not believe. And yet, she was jumping rope outside. He could not believe his eyes. She was soaking wet in the rain. He had to know more. "What are you doing?" he shouted. The girl continued to jump her rope, laughing in the rain. She was amused by his bewilderment. "Do you want to join me?" she asked. The boy looked at her incredulously, but figured, why not? I guess if I get pneumonia, at least I'll get out of school, he thought. He left the comfort of his dry and warm living room and stepped out into the rain, immediately soaked. He found that jumping rope in puddles was actually kind of fun. "Do you often play out in a thunderstorm?" he asked her. "I like playing in all weather," she said. "Even in the snow?" "Even more in the snow." "How does a jump rope work on the ice?" "Not well." He laughed at that, enjoying the grin on her face. I guess if you can have fun in less than ideal conditions, you can have fun anytime. The end.
Perfect.
Perfect.
What a nice story.
What a cute little children's story.
We included a little life lesson in there and everything. It's incredible.
Exactly. On the whim. That was adorable. I love that.
Perfect.
Are there any final messages that you would love to share with our listeners today?
Just that I hope you pick up Savor It, and I hope you enjoy it. And looking forward to everybody either meeting Deacon and Loren for the first time this fall or getting reacquainted with them when they're re-released too.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much for being here. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you everyone for listening. This has been Must Love Books. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon under @MustLoveBooksPodcast. Thank you and happy reading.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.